everyone, and welcome again to my channel. Today I will be doing something very different. Today I will be interviewing one of my sixth formers on life, and of course Rita Dove's poem and presentation and analysis of that poem. And she did such a fantastic job. I had to share it with the wider public, and of course, so that students who need to access information about Rita Dove's poem may be able to do so. I trust that you'll find our interview engaging and also that you'll find our presentation beneficial. God bless you. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm with another sixth form student. Okay, right. We will be sharing life journey so far in sixth form, and also be talking a little about Rita Dove's poem and presentation and analysis. All right. So, Kiyomi, my first question to you is this: provide us with an introduction of yourself. Who are you? What are you all about, Kiyomi?
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Khome Wood. I am a sixth form student at the Meadowbrook High School. I am an introvert that enjoys reading, watching Asian dramas, eating, traveling, and learning new things. My favorite quote is from Eleanor Roosevelt, and she says that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. I am generally a free spirited person, an honest person who just wants to leave an impact on the world.
Very good. Excellent introduction. Okay. Kiyomi, what five adjectives, what five words would you use to describe yourself in a nutshell? What are these words that you would use to describe yourself?
Well, I would say I am kind, a generally kind person. I am helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I am driven. Um,
Yes.
I like to think that I'm a humble person as well,
Okay.
and
That's four.
caring.
And
Caring.
caring. Okay. All right. So kind and caring goes hand in hand. Okay. Because if you're a kind person, naturally you'll be a caring person. Would you like to give us another one to describe yourself? Another adjective?
Passionate. Passionate, I would say.
Passionate. Oh, really? Oh, nice. That's a lovely word, All right, passionate. What are some of your passion? What are things that will cause you to be somewhat passionate? What are you passionate about?
Well, firstly, I am a Christian, so I'm passionate about the things of God. I'm very passionate and serious about that. I am
Mhm.
passionate about empowerment, especially for young people. Very, very passionate about that. I would also say I am passionate about the truth. As I want to be a lawyer, I like when justice is being served. So I'm very passionate about that.
Excellent. Okay, good, great. Which brings me to my other question. What are some of the things you enjoy about being a sixth form student? What are some of the things that you enjoy about being in sixth form?
Well, the first thing I enjoy about being in sixth form is the mindset that really comes with it. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically a whole new experience from when we were in, grade 10 and 11. And it actually makes you realize how serious tertiary education is because, they say sixth form is basically pre university. It actually increases my drive and pushes me to work hard. Another thing I also like is that it puts me in a position to inspire other students who might be struggling to grasp the whole ideology of CXC. I can set it an example to them, because we're all going through this fight. And I like that I can encourage persons to continue to persevere despite the difficult times we're living in. I also like that I can finally learn the concepts that interest me. And I know this might sound weird, but I love the workload that comes with sixth form. Um, I might be tired at times. I might say I'm tired at times, but I also strive to, put out my best to kick all my goals and achieve my fullest potential.
Excellent. I really must say that you did that. You did execute. You did such a fantastic presentation. It was very detailed, very well organized, well structured, and of course, it suggests that you are very meticulous in your presentations and all, and you do want good grades and all, and such as your competitive nature as well. So I'm happy about that. You did well. Excellent job. What are some of the challenges that you have encountered being in sixth form?
Well, my major challenge is mental health, I must say. With all the workload that is placed on us, we tend to forget to rest. And, rest is very
Mm-hmm.
important. And not resting places added strain on the already stressful life that we might have because of the pandemic that's going on. And I sometimes break down because of it. That's one challenge. Another challenge I face, not new, but it kind of has increased since the pandemic, and I must say, procrastination. And growing up, you always hear them say, procrastination is the thief of time. But I must say, I never knew how true that was until grade 12. And I would always put things off, saying, I'll do that tomorrow, or that can't wait till the weekend. And I keep putting it off until I have to rush and finish it, and that also adds to the mental strain. So, yeah, these are
Yes.
basically the challenges I have with sixth form.
Okay, that's so true. I like that point that you've raised. So, sometimes, as you mentioned, procrastination, when you procrastinate, it do have an impact on you, a negative one, because then the workload becomes heavier for you to bear, right? And so how would you encourage? Would you encourage persons to go to sixth form, to actually be in a sixth form program, enroll in sixth form, and why would you encourage or not encourage persons to attend sixth form?
Well, yes, I would definitely recommend that people go to sixth form or come to sixth form if you're already a Meadowbrookian, because not only does it provide a stepping stone towards tertiary education, but it actually provides a life education as well. Like, for instance, one thing I have learned since being in sixth form is how beautiful it is to always be prepared. Like, preparation is key, and you never know when situations will arise where you need to be called upon and do something that will take you out of your comfort zone. Another thing I have learned is the importance of collaboration, reaching out to people, communicating, because I've had to do a lot of group work this year. And I can say that indeed, no man is an island. And I have learned to accept that no matter what we think, group work is essential because we can't really do everything on our own. And people are out there that need our help. We can, adjust to their thoughts. Everybody's diverse. They have their own, unique state of mind. So yes, I would recommend that people come to sixth form, take a pit stop by sixth form before going to university if you so choose, and see what it has to offer, if it's even only for 1 year.
Very good. Excellent response, Kiyomi. Was it easy to find information on Rita Dove's poems? Was it easy for you to find information on her poems?
Well, no, not at all, miss. You think that with the college of Google that is there, anything is possible.
Mm,
But I had to search far and wide, but I must say that through it all, I must say, this research has humbled me somewhat because I'm so used to just typing something in the search bar and it comes up instantly. But with Hades' speech, the poem I did for the presentation, and most of Rita Dove's poems, I had to really dig deep. I think it is because, she's not so well known as a poet to everyone. And I must thank the Cape examiners for choosing Rita Dove's poem because she's really an epic and brilliant poet. Her poems on the physical or literal may seem regular, but they are so much deeper and leads us as the readers to actually put on our quote unquote analytical caps and think and search for a deeper meaning behind her poems. I love how all her poems in Mother Love, the book, brings out the daughter mother motif, as I like to call it, because it's common throughout her poems that
yes,
represents
yes.
Demeter and Persephone's relationship, those Greek goddesses. So I really enjoyed the research process.
And I really enjoyed your presentation. Um, did you find that the twist up approach assisted you somewhat with analyzing this point?
Yes, I think it has because I've done poem analysis already, but with the twist up approach, it was a lot more organized. It allowed me to, you know, have my information in a more coherent form and more concise. I loved
Mhm.
how it allowed me to be more detailed because I could pick out words, analyze them and say, really, it had me thinking. I really like the twist up approach. I'd recommend that teachers teach their students to use the twist up approach in analyzing poems. It's very effective.
Yes, it is. Yeah, right. Good. I'm happy that it was, of course, beneficial to you. What did you find fascinating about the research presentation that you did?
Well, I must say for me, it's just the presentation factor. Yeah, I love making presentations. It's one of my loves. I absolutely love it to the point where I even do presentations for my teachers. Like they would say, I wanted to make this into a presentation. I'm like, say less. I'll do it, miss. And I create slides. I love it. And I love sharing my thoughts on topics. And I think the best way to do that is using a slide presentation. I'm very conscientious in, choosing slides. I always take into consideration the colors and make certain they match the theme of the presentations as well. I like choosing fonts because I think fonts are very essential in creating an effective presentation. The slide styles are the formats, pictures, the tips I would use, even quotes. I just love making presentations. I find it fun, fulfilling, a great use of time. And presenting Hades' speech was really a privilege for me. I love that poem. I must thank you for giving me that poem. I really enjoyed
I
doing
must
this
say
presentation.
it was obvious. It was so clear that you were passionate about this one. Okay, so what career are you planning to head into? What is it? What would be your career, future career, or careers? Right?
Well, as I said before, I'm very passionate about legal studies and law.
Mhm.
Initially, I wanted to be a divorce lawyer, but I think now I'm trying to venture into the prosecution side of things because I think there's some
Okay.
gap in our justice system that needs to be bridged. But if law doesn't work out for me, I'm thinking about going to communications because I like speaking. I don't speak a lot, but once you get me to talk on a topic that I really enjoy and I'm passionate about, you can't get me to stop talking. So I love
Okay.
communications and I love entrepreneurship. I love seeing new businesses because it shows that really people are thriving and our entrepreneurial spirits that are from our ancestors, I like to think, are finally coming out in us. And I love entrepreneurship and I love supporting black owned businesses as a black person. So yeah, those are basically my passions.
I Yes, I must say, I do believe law is going to work out for you. You can do the others as a second career too, because Kiyomi, I must say we were very impressed with your presentation, your slides, your of course details were on point. It showed that you did your research and it was a job well done. Okay, right? What do you find fascinating about the research presentation in terms of written out? The presentation that you did, what was so fascinating? What really grabbed you?
I think in doing the presentation, what really grabbed me was how deep the poem was. I know Rita Dove's poems are normally deep, but something about Hades' pitch really made me love it. I think it's the whole fact about the coming of age. Because, as young people, there's a time where we have to, break out of the shell that we're in and go out and really experience the real world, as it is said in the setting of the poem. And it's inevitable, and parents choose not to like to let go of their children when they become
So
older.
true.
But we all have to grow up. It's a part of life, and I loved the whole concept of the coming of age theme. I think it was one of my favorite themes in the poem. So I love doing this presentation. It made me think, and I like that. I like thinking.
Okay, and did it allow you to understand your parental concerns a bit more as well, and the bond that existed between mother and daughter? Did it help you? Did it shed some more light on that?
Well, yes, it did. Because I think mothers play a very pivotal role in the lives of their daughters, especially if they're there. Um, a mother daughter
Mm-hmm.
relationship to me runs very deep. And even after you have left the shell and gone, there is just something that you'll always have to go back to your mother for. And because your mother would have been full of so much experiences and wisdom that she can share with you. And I think the mother daughter relationship motive, as I call it in her poems, they're very strong and essential in such a time that we live in. So, yes, I really enjoy that.
Excellent response. I couldn't put it any better. My God. Right. What encouragement would you leave with young people who are struggling or find school to be somewhat challenging?
Well, I would recommend that for those who are struggling, that you pray, especially if you're a believer in God, because, prayer is very effective. It's a very effective key to solving your hardest issues because nothing, and I mean nothing, is too hard for God to do. I would also recommend that you persevere, even if it's hard, and never give up. There's a song that I loved by an artist that I used to listen to. Her name, Sia. One of her songs, The Greatest. My favorite line from that song is where she's saying, "Don't give up. I won't give up. Don't give up." It's like she's encouraging herself to not give up, even when the time gets hard. So every time I feel like giving up, I would just say that line, and for some reason it just worked for me. And look at the most successful people in life. They would have not been where they are if they had given up. And to take from another great mind, Franklin Roosevelt, he said, when you have reached the end of your rope, just tie a knot in it and just hang on. So keep hanging on. Never give up though it may seem hard. Yeah. And lastly, I would say, just remember why you started. For most of us, we want the best out of life, and we know that it can only be achieved, sorry, through
Mhm.
quality education. So you just have to always remember why you started and stick to that. You know, um, for some of us, our parents might have forced us to go to sixth form, or for me, it was optional. And there are times in the journey where we say, I just want to give up, but you just have to tell yourself that I started sixth form for this. I want to do this. And if I don't continue sixth form, I won't be able to do this, or it's going to take a longer time to do this. So just don't give up. And I had to talk myself out of giving up a lot of time. I would sit down and be like, Kyo, me remember that you want to, an easier transition into university life. And this is one way to do it. So don't give up. So that's what I would recommend to people who want to give up. Just keep praying, keep persevering, never give up, and always remember why you started, even in your darkest and most trying times.
Excellent response, Kiyomi. Excellent, excellent. Well done, Kiyomi. What encouragement would you give now to young girls who are seeking love? Yeah,
Well,
because we know that Rita Dove's poem, speak to that issue, right?
well, for me, everyone who knows me knows I am a pragmatic person. I'm
What
not.
would you say to them?
Well, everyone who knows me knows
Mm-hmm.
I'm a
So,
pragmatic.
so what's the first encouragement?
Miss, what was that?
Yes. All right. And what about so self? Yes. So would you encourage them to start first by loving yourself?
Well, I think self love is the best love, as they always say,
Would
but
you
not
encourage
all.
them to start?
But people struggle with self love, so it
Mm-hmm.
will take
But not
time.
all.
But you have to love yourself first. You have to love yourself
Mm-hmm.
first. Um, but if you're looking for a life partner, I'd recommend that you wait because it's always right that you wait. So you trust the process, trust God, and look for someone who will encourage you, will build you up, who will love you for you and not what society thinks you should be. So if you're looking for love, wait for that right person and try to look
Mm-hmm.
at the person's personality and not necessarily their appearance. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Appearances can be deceiving.
Excellent, excellent. And also focus on school. Yes, very good. Appearance can be very deceiving. And also focus on school at this time and then, go through the process as you say. What a wonderful, beautiful individual, right? You are such a very humble spirit. And I like the fact that you mentioned that you're an introvert, but if persons really want you to do something, you will rise to the occasion and you will execute effectively. And I think you have. Your presentation was on point and one that needs to be shared with the wider public. So, and of course, because Rita Dove's information is not so readily available, it will be, I have actually, felt that your presentation had done justice to this poem and we wanted the information to be out there. Well done, Kiyomi. All the best in your future endeavors and God bless you richly.
And may God
Okay?
bless you
All
as
right.
well.
All the best to you, Kiyomi. Thank you, Kiyomi. All the
Thank
best to you. All right. Here ends our interview, Kiyomi. All right.
thank you.
So, of course, the next thing that will happen is that your slides will be merge with your interview. All the best, okay, in your
Thank
pursuit.
you.
All right, Kimi, I'm going to stop recording now, but you can stay on the platform a little so we can explain what next will be done. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Khome Wood, and today I will be doing an analysis of the poem Hades' Speech by Rita Dove. Before we get started with this presentation, an overview is in order, so let's get to it. In this presentation, the focus will be on the poet Rita Dove, a quote on poetry, description of the poem and the poem itself, setting of the poem, analysis of the poem using the twist up approach, and a glossary of terms. I must also say that we will come across interesting facts from ancient Greece and also some crazy poetry facts. There will be some tips that may be useful, so stay tuned. Here now is a quote on presentations. Designing a presentation without an audience in mind is like writing a love letter and addressing it to who it may concern. This is a quote from Ken Hamer. Now let's talk about the poet Rita Dove. Rita Francis Dove is an American poet and essayist. She was born in Akron, Ohio on August 28, 1952. Some of her major works include Through the Ivory Gate, 1992, and The Poet's World, 1995. Here is another quote, but this time on poetry. Poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes origin from emotions recollected in tranquility. This is a quote from William Wordsworth. Let's get to our first set of crazy poetry facts in this section I like to call So Poetic. One of the most popular forms of writing short poems is the haiku. Originating in Japan, the haiku has only 17 syllables. There are three lines containing 5, 7, and again 5 syllables. The Mahabharata is the longest poem in the world. It is an Indian epic poem which has around 1.8 million words. The oldest written poem is the Epic of Gilgamesh, originating from Babylon. In it, we have the story of a king, Gilgamesh, who was half god, half man. It is believed that the Epic of Gilgamesh is around 4,000 years old. Now let's get into the real stuff. We start by a description of the poem. Hades, pitched by Rita Dove, expresses the seduction of Persephone by Hades, or a seductive play for Persephone from Hades. It opens up part 4 of Mother Love. This poem is fascinating to read because even though it is from Persephone's perspective, it is one of the few times we get to hear from Hades. Throughout the poem, allusions to Greek mythology are made, which shows the timelessness and universality of the gradual process of sexual awakening, the ritual of coming of age, and also a mother's protective love for her daughter. However, it is interesting how Persephone is portrayed in this poem. She is not simply shown as a weak, helpless girl abducted from her home and raped. Instead, we see her enjoying every bit of Hades' seduction, even taking an active part in it. There is no doubt that her innocence was stolen. The question lies in whether the thief was Hades or Persephone's own coming of age. Now let's look at the poem Hades' Pitch. If I could just touch your ankle, he whispers. There, on the inside, above the bone, leans closer. Breath of lime and peppers, I know I could make love to you. She considers this, secretly thrilled, though she wasn't quite sure what he meant. He was good with words, words that went straight to the lips licked with fire. Her ankle burns where he described it. She sighs, just as her mother above ground stumbles, is caught by the fetlock, bereft in an instant, while the great man drives home his desire. In understanding the poem, we must look at the setting. And believe me, it's not what you think. The poem is set in Paris during the daughter's trip abroad, where she, without her mother's constant protection for the first time, is suddenly exposed to many aspects of the real world. Through the seduction by the man who embodies Hades, readers see a girl's first probe into her sexual desires, an erotic adventure with an older man that symbolizes her coming of age. Here's another crazy poetry fact. The name syphilis was coined by the Italian physician and poet Girolamo Fracastoro in his pastoral noted poem written in Latin titled Syphilis, Sive Morbius Gallicus, Latin for syphilis or the French disease in 1530. So called because it originated among French troops in 1495 when they were besieging Naples, Italy. Hmm. I wonder how they got this disease. Now let's start the analysis of the poem using the twist up approach. It is a mnemonic wherein each letter stands for something. The first T stands for title. Let's have a look. In examining the title, we want to find out what it suggests about the poem. The title of this poem has both literal and figurative connotations. In the literal sense, pitch has many different meanings. It could be a baseball pitch, cricket pitch, musical pitch, or even a business pitch. In the context of the poem, pitch here means Hades' presentation of himself to her, such as in the business world. In the figurative sense, the title puns on the colloquialism, his play or pitch for her, and his black as pitch dastardly intent. As a seducer, he is cunning, urgent, and slightly pathetic. This suggests to the readers that the poem will be about Hades' playful pitch to Persephone or him selling himself to her. The W stands for words, and that's what we'll be looking at next. In exploring the words, we want to talk about the words that stand out and why the writers would use these words. Whispers, in line 1, evokes a sense of mystery, immediately setting the scene for her seduction. There, in the end of the line, is short and direct, making him sound more forceful. It further shows in the next line that the man is very specific in describing her body. The enjambment also creates a lingering feeling, making the prospect of having sex with him seem more attractive. This shows that he is experienced in his action and masterful in his seduction. He knows exactly what to do and how to push her buttons. Breath of lime and pepper in line 3 is presumably from the cocktails they were drinking together. The smell of margaritas is a symbol of sophistication and adulthood. The blend of sour and spicy is exotic, further exciting the young daughter as the sexual tension increases both in physical and psychological terms. I know I could, in line 3, sounds almost arrogant, domineering even, but also dangerously attractive at the same time. Considers in line 4, she's pondering Hades' proposition and decides to comply, seduced more by his language than his physical presence. Secretly thrilled in line 5, the young daughter is described as secretly thrilled at the prospect of the older man making love to her. Here, sex is painted as a forbidden fruit, a part of adulthood that was dangerous yet tantalizing. Even though a part of her mind is cautioning her, telling her that this is wrong, another part is pushing her to follow her burning desires, leading to a subconscious guilt on her part. He was good in line 6. At the end of the line, sounds almost as if it was taken from African American speech, with a jazzy, slangy, and slick touch to it, building up the sexual attraction. Straight to the liver in line 7 draws a comparison with alcohol, again referring to the cocktails they were drinking earlier, indicating that his words, like the drinks, got her drunk and left her craving for more. However, like alcohol, these words might also be toxic and damaging. The heavy use of enjambments from lines 4 to 7 gives the poem an irregular, stuttering pace, which echoes with how the young girl is drunk on the older man's attention. Her ankle burns in line 11. The reader is pulled back to the ongoing action of the story, which is the physical discomfort the daughter is experiencing. The burning sensation she is feeling at her ankle refers to her sexual desire, and the abrupt change of subject and also the caesura in this line echoes with how desire is urgent and all consuming, distracting her from all her thoughts. This anything but humble dive, stone gargoyles layering, and brocade drapes lit with fire This scene from lines 9 to 10 can serve as an allusion to hell. It creates a dark, looming, and intimidating setting. Anything but humble in line 9 echoes with the confusion and dazzling feelings the daughter is experiencing on her eye opening trip to the real world. Just as her mother above ground stumbles, is caught by the fetlock, bereft in an instant, in lines 12 to 13, the scene shifts the reader's attention to the mother. This is an allusion to the myth of the rape of Demeter by Poseidon, lord of the sea, during her search for Persephone in Arcadia. She turns into a mare to escape, but is caught by the fetlock and raped by Poseidon. Great man drives home his desire. The line is very macho since the focus is placed on the man driving home his desire. The great man here can be referring to both the characters of Hades and Poseidon. In doing so, the poet creates a parallel imagery of the moment of the mother's rape and the moment where her daughter succumbs to the seduction of the Parisian demimonde or of the older man in Paris. Readers see two sexual acts happening at the same time, except one is a violent violation, while the other was a masterful, but definitely consensual seduction. The I stands for imagery, and this can include, of course, what you see and the devices that are used to portray them, such as metaphors, similes, etc. The imagery most dominant throughout this poem is visual, that gives us a very vivid description of the scenes in the poem. Also present are tactile imagery through words such as touch your ankle, auditory through words like he whispers, and olfactory in words like breath of lime and peppers. Here we can see, smell, hear, and feel what is going on in the poem, and it creates a vivacious feeling while reading. In viewing imagery, I chose two devices that brings this out, and that includes symbolism and allusion. So let us start with symbolism. By definition, symbolism is a literary device that uses symbols, be they words, people, marks, locations, or abstract ideas, to represent something beyond the literal meaning. In the poem, we are given many symbolic elements that help us to get a better picture of the poem. Examples include the margaritas the personas were drinking in the poem could symbolize sophistication and adulthood. Her uncertainty of the older man's words could symbolize or highlight her youth, innocence, and naivety. The great man is a symbol, most likely for Hades and Poseidon. It has a very macho connotation and a variety of meanings. Great man can allude to their status as very powerful Greek gods and also their physical appearance, which might be viewed as sexist, as women would never have been called great. So I interrupt this program to bring you another poetry fact. Metrophobia is a name for a fear of poetry, and I think a lot of people have this fear. The term is originated from meter, a basic structure of a poem. Many people first developed this phobia in schools where overzealous teachers encouraged them to rank poems according to artificial scales and break them down and search for esoteric meanings. Metromania denotes the compulsion to write poetry. I too once had this, but let's discuss that another time. Back to regular programming. The next device that brings out imagery is allusion. An allusion refers to a person, place, historical event, or ancient source such as the Bible, mythology, ancient people, etc. Just like symbolism, there are quite a few instances in the poem where we come across elements that allude to something else. Examples of these include went straight to the liver, which draws a comparison with alcohol, alludes to the cocktails they were drinking earlier, indicating that his words, like the drinks, got her drunk and left her craving for more. Falling for him out of sheer boredom, though we never get an answer to this question, maybe because the young girl herself is unsure. Falling not only alludes to how Persephone fell into the ground, the underworld, but can also refer to a fall from grace as she gives the older man her body and loses her innocence. In lines 9 and 10, we get an allusion to hell. The vivid imagery in this anything but humble dive, stone gargoyles layering and brocade drapes lit with fire, it sets the scene, creating a dark, looming, and intimidating scene. In lines 12 to 13, just as the mother above ground stumbles, is caught by the fetlock, bereft in an instant, is an allusion to the myth of the rape of Demeter by Poseidon, lord of the sea, during her search for Persephone in Arcadia. She turns into a mare to escape, but is caught by the fetlock and raped by Poseidon. Though a symbol, the great man can also be seen as an allusion. It alludes to Hades and Poseidon and the themes of male dominance, sex, and gender. These two devices helps us to understand the symbols of coming of age and allusions to Greek mythology. Here is a fact about ancient Greece we probably didn't know. The yo-yo was invented by the ancient Greeks. Scientists argue that the Greeks invented the yo-yo. This was after they found a device which is very similar and dates back to 500 BC. It is believed that the yo-yo is the second oldest toy in the world. The oldest toy in the world is, surprise, surprise, the doll. The S stands for structure and form. Here we want to understand how the structure of the poem reflects the mood and atmosphere that is being created by the poet. The poem Hades' Pitch is a single 14-line sonnet with rhyme. It is, however, a betrayal of the sonnet form. Unlike the Petrarchian sonnet, it does not have a clear structure comprising of an ostet and a sestet. Instead, it can be broken up into two even sections. Lines 1 to 7 is a narration of the moment, while lines 8 to 14 are the young daughter's introspective thoughts. The two sections are both bound together by an irregular but definite rhyme scheme. In the first section, could in line 3 clearly rhymes with good in line 6, while closer in line 2, considers in line 4, and liver in line 7 creates a more subtle rhyme scheme. In the second section, the rhyme scheme is less visible, with only fire in line 10 rhyming with desire in line 14, but it is a clear rhyme. Such a violation of the traditional sonnet form not only parallels with the violation of Persephone and Demeter, but also the violation of the original Greek myth where Persephone is portrayed as the victim. The poet also makes use of enjambments. An enjambment is a continuation of a sentence or clause across a line break. In the poem, enjambments are used for different purposes. It creates feelings, slows the pace of the poem, adds suspense and tension, and helps with transitions from one line to the next. Examples of enjambments include: if I could just touch your ankle, he whispers, there on the inside, lines 1 to 2. I know I could make love to you, lines 3 to 4. He was good with words, words that went straight to the liver, lines 6 to 7. The other T stands for themes and tones. Here we will decipher the poem's messages and key ideas. We're looking at the themes. Let's start with the most obvious ones. Feminism, women as victims of sexual exploitation. In the poem, we get insight into not only the seduction of Persephone, but also the parallel violation of Demeter by Poseidon. They were both used for the carnal desires of the men, whether it was consensual or otherwise. Greek mythology. This is evident in all the Rita Dove poems we have done so far, which makes it a central theme for the collection of poems in Mother Love. The stories are normally all the same. Persephone is kidnapped by Hades and Demeter is searching for her. But it is important to note that in this poem, everything is not how it should be or how we expect it. Persephone was not raped by Hades, but she consented to the sexual action, and she also not She also was not perceived as a weak, helpless girl who was taken away forcefully. Likewise, her mother stumbles, as suggested by the poem, and is raped by the Lord of the Sea. Coming of age. In this poem, we get insight into Persephone's first sexual encounter. The fact that she considers Hades' proposal, even though she wasn't quite sure what he meant, shows her growth into adulthood where she can consent to a sexual invitation. The drinking of margaritas and her sexual encounter all represent her loss of seduction. Hades' pitch is about his play or plot to get Persephone. He is presented as a master seducer who uses words to get Persephone to sleep with him. He was good with words, words that went straight to the liver. Loss of innocence. Even though this poem leaves us to question Persephone's supposed innocence, it is very evident that her consent to Hades' pitch contributed to her loss of innocence. The drinking of margaritas and her sexual encounter represented her loss of innocence as well. She was deflowered and exposed to many aspects of the real world. Separation. Mother and daughter are separated throughout all the poems in Mother Love, but in Hades' pitch, the setting makes a difference. The daughter is on a trip in Paris, while the mother is searching for her daughter in Arcadia. This could also allude to the poem Persephone Falling, where the child is being warned by the mother, but disobeys and her foot sinks into the ground. The last theme, mother daughter relationship. In the poem, there is a parallel between Persephone and Demeter. It suggests that even though they are separated, they are still close to each other. Just like in the poem Mother Love, where she expresses the never ending love of a mother for her child, we see where a mother endures pain and violation just to find her daughter that has strayed from the herd. Let's look at the tones in the poem. The tone of the poem seems sensual at the beginning with the seduction of Persephone, and then it gets forceful with use of words like there in line 10 and drives home his desire, line 14. At the end, it gets shocking with the rape of Demeter by Poseidon. We also get a sense of loss at both ends of the spectrum. Persephone lost her innocence, and Demeter stumbled and probably lost her dignity. The U stands for you or your personal response to the poem. It will seek to answer questions such as: did the poem meet your expectations? In the beginning stages of the poem, the reader gains a sense of the impending rendezvous through the build-up of sexual tension, which was expected. But at the end, with the rape of Demeter, the readers become shocked at the turn of events and the switch of scenery. The poem seems to change our perception of the original story and gives us a twist of the unexpected. It had somewhat matched the reader's expectation, but also was shocking at the same time. I know I've been killing you with these poetry facts, but this is the last one. Anne Bradstreet was the first woman to be recognized as an accomplished poet in the British American colonies. After she died, her husband collected her poems and published them as a book, making her the first woman to have a published book in America. The last letter stands for P, and this stands for all the poetic devices used throughout the poem. The first one is metaphors. A metaphor is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. In the poem, the lines, just as her mother above ground stumbles, is caught by the fetlock, bereft in an instant, lines 12 to 13, is an example of a metaphor. Persephone's mother, Demeter, is being referred to as a horse, or more specifically, a mare. It relates back to the search, where she is called the old mare. The metaphor helps to bring out the illusion that is being visualized. Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is a literary device in which a writer gives an advance hint of what is to come later in the story. In the poem, the lines, "In this anything but humble dive, stone gargoyles layering and brocade drapes liquid fire," this lines foreshadows another Rita Dove poem called Lost Brilliance, which talks about Persephone's time in hell or the underworld. Juxtaposition. A juxtaposition is an act or instance of placing two elements close together or side by side. In the poem, the enjambment from lines 47 shows a juxtaposition of her careful considerations, impulsive desires, and confused hesitation. Cooped up in line 9 also juxtaposes with anything but humble, setting echo with the confusing and dazzling feelings the daughter is experiencing on her eye opening trip to the real world. Lines 47, should I remind you, make love to you. She considers this secretly thrilled, though she wasn't quite sure what he meant. He was good with words, words that went straight to the lift. Mood. Mood is the feeling created by the poet for the reader. The poem presents different moods throughout. In the beginning, we got a playful and romantic mood caused by the seduction, and then it gets sorrowful towards the end with the rape of Demeter by Poseidon. Here's some additional information about the poet. Rita Dove once expressed that one of the inspirations for her poems was what our heart does all the time, that rhythm, that push and pull, feels natural to us. The poem is a perfect example. We see the young daughter's rational, conscious thoughts weaving in with her physical, immediate sexual desires, reflecting her confusion and how the young girl cannot separate the two. In this interior monologue, soliloquy like narration, the poet masterfully gives a realistic and compelling portrayal of a girl's sexual awakening. Here are some terms that I might have neglected to define in the presentation. Bereft means deprived of or lacking something. Brocade is a rich woven fabric with a raised pattern, typically with gold or silver thread. Caesura is a break between words within a metrical foot or a pause in the middle of the line. Colloquialism, a word or phrase that is not formal or literary and is used in ordinary or familiar conversation. Connotation is an idea or feeling which a word invokes for a person in addition to its literal or primary meaning. Fetlock, the joint of a horse's or other quadruped's leg between the cannon bone and the pastern. Gargoyles, a grotesque carved human or animal face or figure projecting from the gutter of a building, typically acting as a spout to carry water clear of a wall. And rendezvous is a meeting at an agreed time and place. Here we have the brocade, this is the fetlock, and this is a gargoyle. Here are all the works cited throughout the presentation. Now here is a virtual learning tip. Seek virtual interactions with your peers. Studying with a group of peers in the library or simply receiving on the spot clarifications from classmates is obviously not possible during this time. However, forming virtual interactions through platforms such as Zoom or Google Meet is a feasible action you could take in order to maintain that sense of collaboration and community. Here is another tip. Take a break. I don't even need to stress how important this is. We need to take breaks. Whether it is to take a walk, watch a movie, or sleep, we all need breaks. Before we go today, here is a parting thought. Every day might not be good, but there is something good in every day. Thanks for listening to my presentation. Are there any questions?
Excellent, excellent job, Kiyomi. Well done. Right, excellent. You have done extremely well, right? Want to thank you for such an insightful and, of course, innovative presentation. I like how you have arranged your slides. They were arranged in a manner that we could all follow, right? And I enjoyed how you have used the twist up approach. My only question, yes, I have a question, right? And I don't want to give it away. In the early part of your presentation, you mentioned that the thief, you're not so sure whether the thief was Hades or Persephone's own coming of age. Why do you say this?
Well, Miss, from my research on Greek mythology, what I have found is that people are still debating whether or not Persephone consented to the sexual action or she was actually raped. And even in the poem, we can see that it goes against the story that we are told that, she was raped. She was taken to the underworld and raped. And in the poem, I think what the poet is doing is showing us that, I mean, we don't know for sure if she was actually raped or whether she consented. So, but we just know that her innocence was stolen, which is why we're saying we're not sure if it was the thief was actually Hades raping her or her coming of age.
Okay. Well done. Thank you for your response, Kiyomi. The slides will be uploaded in the same manner as was done earlier. Well done. All the best to you. Congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you, Miss.
You're welcome there. All the best to you. Okay. Take care. Say hi to your family and everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay.
Same to you. Thank you.
All right. All the best to you, girl. Okay, Kiyomi did such a superb job. And even though there were distractions, she was so focused, which proves her point. Once you're determined to succeed, of course, to become successful, nothing can distract you from achieving your goal. All the best to such a beautiful young lady. All the best in your pursuits, young lady.